there is.
Friends and lovers, welcome to the Jimpressions for Tacoma, which is one of those narrative adventure games, one of those interactive dramas. Some would call them walking simulators, and this one is from Fullbright, the folks who did Gone Home, which I thought was pretty good. I didn't think it was fantastic. The loading sequences are put in these, basically these tunnels you go down to get into the different areas. I think they're supposed to be seamless. This is on the PS4, not quite seamless, as you can see there. It gets choppy halfway down the tunnel, but that's the only major issue. There's one other glitch, because I found the Christmas duck in this game, because the Christmas duck was my favourite thing from Gone Home. You see it right at the beginning. It's just a duck for Christmas, and it's in this game hidden away under a pumpkin, and I went to share it on Twitter using the PS4 share, went back into the game, and then it was all choppy and bad frame rate, and I had to restart it. But that's the only glitch I've encountered. Otherwise, it's pretty smooth. Like Gone Home, it's a rather short adventure. It's all driven by characters, and again, very much like Gone Home, you have arrived after stuff's happened, and you're piecing together what's going on and getting to know characters who you've never actually met. And it's got an interesting story. As you can see, it's less personal and grounded, more fantastical, science fiction, of course, set in space on a spaceship called the Tacoma, if you're interested. And here's the general gimmick. If you've played Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, it's pretty similar to that, except with this AR thing, this augmented reality. The gimmick being everybody's hooked up to a thing, or the ship registers you, where you are, and basically, you know, what you look like silhouetted in a 3D space. Silhouette isn't the right term, but you go into different areas, you bring up an AR retelling of what happened in that room. That's probably the most simple way we could put it. I'm going to have a little bit of a little drink of my coffee, because there we are. Doing this first thing in the morning. Sometimes my mouth gets dry because I haven't had a whole bunch of water yet, but I'm going to after I do this. I have my coffee, then drink a bunch of water. Anyway, very much like Gone Home. I keep saying very much like Gone Home, but it is very similar, of course. So you can pick up pretty much anything. Pick up a spoon, pick up a hat. This is a gay couple, so if that upsets you, you won't want to play it, and also you're probably a bit of a dick, so I don't want to talk to you. I know some people were very upset that Gone Home had gayness in it, which of course is a terrible, terrible crime in some people's eyes. Not so much mine, but then, as I've always said, I like the colour of money and the taste of cock, so I'm perfectly fine with it. So this is pretty much the game. You are watching people do stuff. I've criticised this sort of gameplay before because you often feel like a camera person, just filming somebody else's story. People who are more invested have more history with each other and therefore care about what's going on. And you're sat there thinking, well, why do I care? I don't know these people. But unlike Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, you do get a much better opportunity to know these people. The other thing about this is, well, actually good timing. Every character has a point where their AR desktop comes up and you can snoop on their stuff, more or less. Their desktop comes up and that shows basically the sci-fi equivalent of emails, instant messages, notifications, stuff like that. So here we can see an email chain, there are message chains, and this is where you get to know a bit more about the characters. You can also find each character's personal quarters, and in there you can find just incidental details, little things that are written down, pictures on the wall, all sorts of little things that tell you what that character's like. Forgive this at the moment, this is the very first AR area, and I was just sort of figuring out what goes on. I can tell you a bit more because I didn't know at the time, but the thing at the bottom here, the playing thing, that tells you the basically where each desktop pops up, and a little logo will flash above it, which will tell you what character it is. They've all got little logos on their back denoting their jobs. That's networking, engineering, one of them is, oh no, that's maintenance, and then the cogs is engineering. One's a botanist, and the other is basically the administrator in purple. And again, that is pretty much it. You replay the sequence of events, and you can follow different characters as they go their own ways, and bring up their AR desktops to get a complete picture of the scene in question. And there's corrupted data and stuff like that, so some stuff's hidden away and some stuff's left to your imagination. All told, I probably should have edited this down better, because I didn't start replaying it until I'd fiddled around and played with everything. But this gives you a good idea of the interactivity of everything, you know. None of it really means much, none of it's super important, but it is, I think anyway, just a little way of immersing you in the world, you know. That's a little cat. Isn't that nice, a little cat? Anywho, here is the same scene from earlier, but now we're in the kitchen to see what the other ones have said. And again, that shows off just the general conceit of the game. You are following the different paths. You can rewind if you want and fast forward so that you don't have to watch the same stuff over and over again if you want to just see where the characters start to branch off and go do their own thing. And that's pretty much it. It is okay. It's okay. It is, as I said, a bit more involved than Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. The main problem for me is that the characters do become quite likeable and affable, and you kind of like them a bit. Some of them you really end up like, or at least I really ended up liking and identifying with, and I found them very interesting. I was pulling through for them throughout their adventure. Well, their retroactive adventure on the space station, and it's a short game, as I've said. It's pretty short when you are trying to pack in so much. This isn't quite the story of Gone Home. This hints at quite a big universe, and a kind of story that I really like, because it goes into, basically corporate power run amok, which is a Jimpression staple in terms of subject matter. So it's really my kind of thing, but you just don't get enough time. You just don't get enough time to get absorbed in the universe and get truly connected to these characters who you are just watching as a camera person, whose actions you are just recording. As likeable as they are, here we are, you see me rewinding and coming back here. As likeable as they are, I could never get fully into what was going on for most of them. Some of the performances are good. The Roberta Williams, nice name drop there, the Roberta Williams character and Nat, the two characters who are involved, are really likeable. They got great personalities that have been written for them, and they're performed really well. The voice acting for all the characters is top-notch, and that helps. That helps you get more into what's going on. And like I say, the little incidental details that you just don't get enough of in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture are here in plentiful amounts. As I say, it's just the kind of story that happens and the twists that the story takes have a lessened impact because you don't, you're not going on a lengthy adventure with this takes place over 3 days, and you'll get this done in, I want to say, less than 2 hours. If you go through everything pretty quick. Maybe quicker than that, I don't know. I guess it depends if you're actually going to watch and listen and pay attention to the story and dig through all the stuff, which I did, and you'll spend a bit more time there. The main problem, I feel, is that Fullbright's gameplay is only really supported by a game of this length, and if they want to tell a more involved story, I feel like they're going to have to give the players a bit more to do. I couldn't do this for 5 hours. I wouldn't watch a movie for 5 hours. I'd maybe read a book for 5 hours if I had nothing else to do. I like a good book, but sitting 5 hours reading it, maybe not. I usually do that if I'm like proper sick or something. But that is the issue, the Morton's Fork, if you will, of Fullbright, is if you want to tell a story that requires you to get really, really invested in these characters, rather than a I like you but I hardly knew you situation, I think you need a longer game. But this length is perfect for Fullbright's style. So maybe something not as expansive as this, maybe something that still is on the personal side, because all the personal stuff that's in this game is great. It's just let down, I think, when the scope expands, because the scope does expand, because obviously you're on a space station, there's going to be space station-y things happening, and without saying too much, I don't want to give much of the story away, of course, so I would just call them space station-y things. But that is the issue, is they're stuck between wanting us to get invested in a rather well-rendered universe. There is a whole universe of stuff going on in this game in the background, but you just don't get much time with it. And that is the big thing holding the game back. And the fact that it does remind you of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which I found to be a thoroughly mediocre game. And it's difficult for any one of these interactive dramas, I feel, to follow something like What Became of Edith Finch? What Became of Edith Finch? You can't really say it very quick. What Became of Edith Finch? Oh, you can say it really fast. Oh, well. It's hard. That was a tough act for any of these types of games to follow, I feel, because that was the one that really made the statement, I feel, that a walking simulator doesn't have to be a walking simulator. An interactive drama can have a lot more interaction and get the player way more involved as a result. But of course we're now talking about what Tacoma isn't, when we should end on what Tacoma is. And Tacoma is a good little story. A good little story, such as Fullbright does, with a larger scope that is just a little bit frustrating in that you really do wish you could get a bit more and get a bit more invested. And some people may find themselves deeply entrenched in what this game has to say. I like what this game has to say, I'm just not fully 100% into it. I never quite got completely immersed in the situation, in the characters, in the story. But they are very good characters, excellently performed, the atmosphere is nice. It's okay. The atmosphere of the game is a little bit sterile, because, as I say, you're walking around a bit of a dead ship. And there's some fun things to pick up. Well, actually, I would say that the personal quarters of all of the characters are very nicely put together and full of great stuff. And it's more or less the Tacoma itself, the rest of the ship, space station, that is a bit bland and a bit, you can see here, it's just very, very bare. But it runs decently, it's fun enough, it's interesting enough, we should say, and there's entertainment value in that. So Tacoma, I would say pick it up if you liked Gone Home, definitely. You'll get the same kind of writing, the same kind of characterization that made that game a hit. If you are one of the people that use walking simulator as a derisive term, this will not change your mind on the genre at all. This one fully embraces it, doesn't try to be anything more than that, really. In terms of interactivity, it's not interested in that. So there you go. Better than Dear Esther, but then everything is. I like it, and I think for a particular audience, they'll really, really, really like it. And that's what I think of Tacoma. And I'll see you later. Bye.